Good morning, everyone. This is Faith at Faith and Books. I'm going to do, I hope, a quick update, like no more than 10 minutes, um, and then how I sort of had to regroup a little bit for my March plans. So let's see. I finished. Wait, let me take a sip of tea. I'm back in the study. I used to make videos here a lot, but since COVID, my husband, this is where he works, but he's not down yet. It's too early. So I thought I'd make a quick video here. My books are in such disarray. They are such a mess. That's like a major project, which I keep putting off for years. But anyway, I finished 2 books. I finished this one, the Martha Years, Little House in the Highlands, and I finished Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis. This was part of Febregency, and it's such a charming middle grade book. It's about Laura Ingalls Wilder's great-grandmother, who was her real great-grandmother, who was Scottish, and this is her as a little 6-year-old living in the house of her mother and father. Her father is a laird, well, L-A-I-R-D, but not like a really wealthy one. They don't live in a castle. They live in a stone house, and he's he has these tenant farmers. He's very benevolent, and it's just very warm and cozy. And there's a lot of descriptions about the house and the food and the countryside, and a lot of like textile stuff, because they have sheep, they have wool, but they also grow flax, and they make linen. And her mother, I mean, one of the things that the mother and the older sister do is sew and weave and knit. And so she's starting to learn. She doesn't like sewing, which is reminiscent of Laura. She likes knitting better. And she learns to use a drop spindle. So it's really charming. It's got a lot of kind of the superstitions of the time, and also some of the fairy tales or folk tales of the time are told. They do a lot of storytelling around the fire or while the mother's at her spinning wheel. So it's very charming and warm and cozy, and just a lovely book. I really enjoyed. I read this, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago to my youngest daughter out loud. And yeah, it's a good book. I really enjoyed rereading it. And then I finally finished this. I was taking my time doing it. But it's kind of a gripping book. It's kind of hard to read this book slowly, because you want to turn the page and find out what's going to happen next. Of course, this is a reread. Both of these books are rereads for me. It's a very mystical book. I mean, it's set in some ancient land of Glome, like a city-state, and they're influenced by the Greeks, but they're sort of in the backwater of the whole Hellenistic world. And it's about the daughter of the king there, and her name is Orual, O-R-U-A-L. And it's just what happens to her. She's ugly. She's not beautiful, and she has 2 younger sisters, and the youngest one is from another mother, because her mother had died. And she's beautiful, and she sort of takes care of her like a mother. And the youngest daughter is very beautiful, and she's Psyche, or Istra in their language. And they worship Ungit, or Ungit, U-N-G-I-T, who is, I think, Venus. And I think that's right. And anyway, it's just what happens to her when they decide they have to sacrifice Psyche to the goddess because she's made her angry, and how Orual deals with it. And it's basically about love. And the end of it is at the very end. So she's writing this book because she's angry at the gods, and it's her writing her version of what happened, because this myth has gotten around about, like, I think the actual Cupid and Psyche myth. And she says, no, that's not what happened. Let me tell my side. So that's the first thing. But then there's a follow-up book, which basically, here, that's the second book, which becomes very mystical. It's not just fairy tale, but she's just having vision after vision as she's in old age and getting ill, and the end is coming. And she just has all these visions, these dreams. So it's very, I guess, symbolic, or it's not. You really have to think about it because the meaning doesn't jump out at you. It's subtle. And very, I think, complex. So I think it's just a brilliant work. It's my favorite C.S. Lewis. I really enjoy it. It's very profound. I'd like to read more about commentary on what people say about it, because I think I don't grasp everything. I get sort of little inklings, but I don't know how well I'm really digesting all the ideas that he's put into this. And I read somewhere that his wife Joy really helped him with this book. And so I think that's because sometimes I have trouble with C.S. Lewis because to me he's a little bit too didactic, whereas this is more subtle, I think, and maybe that was her contribution, or maybe he was just really in his prime when he wrote this. All his storytelling capabilities really shine. So anyway, I highly recommend Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis. Excellent, excellent, excellent book. So 5 stars. So those are the 2 books that I finished. So now I think I've read 15 books so far. I'm trying to finish up Febregency. So, but I'm not going to be able to. So I'm gonna. The other book that I'm reading for Febregency is Belinda by Mariah Edgeworth, and I'm finding it absolutely just captivating, just fascinating, because for one thing, I think she must have really influenced Georgette Hare, and I'm a big fan of Georgette Hare, and her Regency romances. There's so much in this book. I'm only like 30% through, though. It's a much bigger book, just like the autobiography of Agatha Christie. I thought it was only like going to be 300 some pages, and it was over 500. Well, this is the same thing. I didn't realize what a big book it was when I started reading it on my Kindle. I just downloaded it. So I've only gotten 30% through. I want it to be done by today, and that's not going to happen. But I don't want to. I have so much planned for March, and I really just want to enjoy reading the mysteries and the middle grade books. So I don't want to feel. And also, I'm doing the March of the Mammoths and Don Quixote. So, and I'm so interested in Belinda. I really want to read it closely. So I think I'm going to put it on hold and pick it up again in April. Maybe I'll try to read a couple of chapters in March just to not forget what's going on. But I'm not going to focus on Belinda at all in March. I'm putting it on hold, and then I'm going to read it in April. And then I'm trying to finish up David Copperfield, and I just finished chapter 51, and I'm in the middle of chapter 52, but I have till the last chapter, I think, is chapter 64. So I have a ways to go, and I'm not going to be able to, I'll be able to get a couple more chapters in today, and a couple, maybe 4 chapters in. So I'm not going to be done by tomorrow when Don Quixote is supposed to start. So I might have to start Don Quixote a couple days later. Hopefully by Thursday I'll have finished David Copperfield and I can start Don Quixote. That's I just couldn't tie things up. I had not such a great reading week, frankly. And so I wasn't as efficient. So all through January and the first part of February, I was just a reading machine. I was like really going at it. But this past week wasn't so good. So it was overly ambitious, I think. So I think that's it. So just tying up Febregency, we had our Burns night last night, and my oldest daughter was so sweet. She went out and bought material and made kilts for the little 6-week-old and the 2.5-year-old, and then the 6-year-old and the 2.5-year-old shared the same kilt. She just bought some material and like pinned it. But that was a really fun thing, because I was saying I'm trying to have this Burns night and nobody cares. Like, nobody cares. I'm going to foist this on the whole family. So I'm glad she got into the spirit of things. That was really fun. And we had a good time. It was only like the third time in my life I've roasted a leg of lamb, and I just don't quite have it down. It was a little gamey tasting. I wasn't a big hit. But I'm going to make a shepherd's pie for dinner tonight. So I'm going to cook the lamb in some chicken broth with veggies. And then I've got a lot of leftover mashed potatoes. And I'll add cheese to it and stuff. It'll be good. And then that's for dinner tonight. And I enjoyed the whiskey drink. We made Rusty Nails, or my son, my 26-year-old son, who sometimes is a bartender. He works at a marina, and sometimes he has to fill in the summertime. They have an outdoor kind of bar, and sometimes he's a bartender. So I said, okay, you're in charge of making the drinks. So it's Drambuie, which is expensive. I've never bought that stuff before, but it's like whiskey and honey, like a liqueur. And then we had the Scotch whiskey, and then we had bitters, which I think were orange or lemon. But anyway, so he made this Rusty Nail, and it reminded me of my childhood, which is such a weird thing, right? But I had a very Irish grandmother, and they didn't go and buy cough medicine. They made cough medicine. So when I was little, when I was a little girl, they would make it in a little shot glass. They'd put in a little bit of whiskey, a little bit of honey, and a little bit of lemon juice. And that's what they would give us when we had coughs. So I took a sip of this drink, and I'm like, I just went down memory lane, remembering my grandmother making me cough medicine when I was a little girl. So that's odd. But anyway, so I enjoyed my drink. I don't like drinking. I'm not a big drinker. But every once in a while, it's nice to have a nice cocktail. And so that was fun, too. Oh, and my daughter, who brought the kilts, also made homemade shortbread. So people like that. I couldn't eat it because it had gluten. But I got gluten-free shortbread from, I think I heard about it in the Victorian read-along group. Somebody was talking about, and I'd ordered that. So that's going to sort of be my Mardi Gras. I'm going to finish up my, tomorrow, my gluten-free shortbread. And I also got this really, really good English double cream. And that's what I used to make the dessert. We had raspberries and toasted oatmeal and this cream sweetened with sugar. I should have used honey, but I just used sugar because it seemed easier. It was delicious. That was really delicious. But I'm going to do something with that cream because, boy, is that delicious. Wow, that's so good. And then I'll finish up my shortbread, and that'll be Mardi Gras. And then Wednesday is Ash Wednesday. So, all right, so I talked for almost 13 minutes, so not my 10-minute limit there. But anyway, I think that's it for now. I hope to put up to recite Lochinvar. I might put that up next week. Yeah. So, all right, that's it from me. I hope you're doing well, and happy reading. Bye-bye.